Socrates, 470–399 BCE. Socrates is like the foundation stone of Western philosophy. He didn't write books. Instead, he asked questions. Imagine a teacher who answers every question with a new question, pushing you to find truth by your own reasoning. That's Socrates. He believed we all have innate wisdom. We just need to uncover it. His Socratic method, a deep dialogue of asking and answering questions to stimulate critical thinking, is his lasting legacy. He's the guy who famously said, "I know that I know nothing," showing that recognizing our own ignorance is the first step to wisdom. Plato, 428–348 BCE. Plato was Socrates' most famous student and took his teacher's ideas to write them down. Picture a world where everything is a pale imitation of a perfect version of itself, Plato's theory of forms. He explained it with the allegory of the cave, where prisoners mistake shadows for reality. Plato's cave tells us that we often see illusions, not truths, and we need philosophy to turn towards the light of understanding. His ideal government was ruled by philosopher kings, wise leaders who love wisdom and truth above all. Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love. Aristotle, 384–322 BCE. Aristotle was all about observation. If Plato was the guy looking at the shadows, Aristotle was turning around and studying the objects making them. He's considered the first genuine scientist in history. He categorized everything, from animals to political systems, and emphasized the golden mean. Virtue is the balance between two extremes. For Aristotle, happiness wasn't about pleasure. It was about living a life of reason and virtue. He basically set the groundwork for the scientific method and influenced countless areas of knowledge. St. Augustine, 354–430. St. Augustine is like a bridge between the classical world and Christian thought. Imagine a searcher who grapples with big questions about God, time, and the soul. Augustine explored the inner human experience, saying, "I became a question to myself," which led to introspection being a key part of philosophy. He also dealt with the concept of original sin and divine grace, emphasizing that humans need divine help to achieve goodness. His Confessions are a profound look at a person's journey to faith, blending philosophy, theology, and autobiography. Thomas Aquinas, 1225–1274. Aquinas is like a grand synthesizer, merging Christian theology with Aristotle's philosophy. Think of him as a mediator who showed that faith and reason are not enemies, but allies in the quest for truth. His major work, Summa Theologica, is a colossal attempt to explain and defend Christian beliefs through logical arguments. For Aquinas, God's existence and nature could be partly understood with human reason, and he provided 5 famous proofs for God's existence. His work laid the groundwork for much of Western thought concerning faith and reason. René Descartes, 1596–1650. Descartes is the guy who started modern philosophy. He's known for being skeptical about everything he thought he knew. His famous phrase, "I think, therefore I am," means that the act of thinking is the only thing we can't doubt, and thus proof of our existence. He wanted a clear and certain foundation for knowledge, just like math. Descartes divided existence into the spiritual and the material, which led to the view known as dualism. He opened up a whole new way of thinking about the mind's connection to the physical world. Baruch Spinoza, 1632–1677. Spinoza saw God in everything. Unlike many, he didn't believe in a distant deity. He argued that God is the universe, and everything within it is part of this divine substance. Imagine a philosophy where everything that exists is interconnected, where mind and body are 2 aspects of the same reality. This is called pantheism. Spinoza's ideas about nature being one with God were revolutionary and controversial. His work laid the groundwork for the Enlightenment, influencing the ideas about democracy, equality, and individual freedom. John Locke, 1632–1704. John Locke is like the intellectual founding father of modern democracy. He proposed that we're born as blank slates, or tabula rasa, and our knowledge comes from experience. This idea was essential for the development of empiricism, the theory that all knowledge is based on experience. Locke argued for the separation of church and state, and his belief in natural rights, life, liberty, and property deeply influenced the American Declaration of Independence. He's the guy who said, "Government with the consent of the governed is the only legitimate kind." Immanuel Kant, 1724–1804. Kant is like the heavyweight champ of complex philosophical thought. He tackled the big question of how we experience the world. He argued that we shape our experiences through the lens of our own minds. We never see the world as it truly is, but only as we perceive it. This is known as his Copernican revolution in philosophy. Kant also introduced the idea of the categorical imperative, which is a universal moral law that applies to everyone. Act only according to that maxim, by which you can at the same time that it should become a universal law. Basically, do only what you'd want everyone else to do. Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, 1770–1831. Hegel is like the philosopher of progress. He saw history as a dynamic process where every event or idea, thesis, inevitably creates its opposite, antithesis, leading to a new synthesis. This dialectical method suggests that conflict and contradiction are the driving forces of change in society, history, and ideas. Hegel believed that reality is a historical process where freedom and self-awareness increase over time, culminating in the realization of absolute spirit. His complex system influenced many areas, including philosophy, politics, and the arts. Friedrich Nietzsche, 1844–1900. Nietzsche is the philosopher who proclaimed, "God is dead," challenging the foundations of traditional morality. He saw the decline of religious authority as an opportunity for individuals to create their own values. Nietzsche celebrated the Übermensch or Superman, a figure who rejects herd mentality and lives courageously with self-crafted values. His critique of morality, religion, and philosophy shook the intellectual world, and his concept of the will to power as the driving force of human behavior has been widely influential. Karl Marx, 1818–1883. Marx is known as the father of communism, but he's also a key figure in philosophy, economics, and history. He saw human history as a struggle between classes, where the oppressed proletariat would eventually rise against the capitalist bourgeoisie. Marx's critical analysis of capitalism argued that it alienates workers from the products of their labor and inevitably leads to class conflict. His ideas about economics, class struggle, and society have had a profound impact on world politics and thought. Søren Kierkegaard, 1813–1855. Kierkegaard is considered the first existentialist philosopher. He focused on individual experience and the importance of personal choice and commitment. His philosophy suggests that truth is subjective and that each person must find their own path in a world without clear moral absolutes. Kierkegaard believed that a leap of faith is necessary to overcome the paradoxes of existence, and that through this leap, one can find a meaningful relationship with God. His work is a call to live authentically and passionately, despite the uncertainties of life. Ludwig Wittgenstein, 1889–1951. Wittgenstein was a philosopher of language and logic. He believed that many philosophical problems arise from misunderstandings caused by language. His first major work, the Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, suggests that the structure of language mirrors the structure of reality. Later, he contradicted some of his earlier ideas in philosophical investigations, arguing that meaning comes from use, not just structure, essentially saying, "Don't look for the meaning, look at how we use words." Wittgenstein's ideas suggest that by clarifying language, we can solve philosophical puzzles. Jean-Paul Sartre, 1905–1980. Sartre is one of the leading figures in existential philosophy. He famously declared that existence precedes essence, meaning that humans exist first and then create their own meaning and identity through their choices and actions. Sartre emphasized radical freedom and the responsibility that comes with it, arguing that we are condemned to be free and must choose without the guidance of pre-existing morals or values. His philosophy challenges us to live authentically and confront the often unsettling freedom we have to shape our lives.